All right, our first step, we're going to go ahead and tape off our paper. I'm just using a plastic poster board for this, but we're just going to tape this off, all corners, all edges. And I have my hot glue gun plugged in, so what I'm going to do now is start applying a couple of things, or a couple of patterns and shapes to my canvas. All right, so I've got my hot glue, and I'm going to just kind of create a couple little shapes. I have decided that jellyfish is going to be the theme. So I am doing my hot glue. I'm creating kind of a half shape or a half moon. And then I'm going to create a little bit of a scallop edge right underneath. And I'm going to do this again right underneath. I'm just going to create some strings, so it's just a little bit longer in spots. And I'm going to create a couple more of these on the canvas. Got one right here in the middle. We'll make this one nice and big. And then we'll add the strings going down. Nice and just kind of wiggly. We'll add another one over here on this side. Now be careful, you don't want to hurt yourself. Hot glue could be really, really, really hot. It does not feel good when you burn yourself. All right, we're going to add a couple more. And one more right over here in this corner. All right, so I've got quite a few. Well, 5 to be exact. Once we have the hot glue guns patterns, we're going to take a big round brush and dip it into water. We're going to mix a color. We're going to take a little touch of blue and a little touch of green and a little touch of white to create an aqua color or a teal. Really, you can mix these 3 colors to the desired color that you would like, but we're looking for something that is aqua. I'm going to add a little bit more water to this. I'm going to go ahead and start filling into the background behind the jellyfish. And you can add more water to kind of move this around. And just gliding it on, getting in the in-betweens. You might get a couple of pieces of the hot glue, little strands, and just remove those. And just keep filling it in. I'm just going to go ahead and get in between. little more water, a little more color. So once you've filled in with the basic color of the teal, you can go ahead and touch into maybe just a little bit more blue. And you can add some little bit of blue here and there. It's really up to you if you like this or not. But we're just adding a little bit of a different color, keeping the background wet. I like it how it's darker over here and a little lighter over here, but I can incorporate a little bit more color into this. Nice, watery, tranquil background. I'm going to just blot my brush on a paper towel. I'm going to mix a purple. So I'm just going to take a little touch of blue, a little touch of red, and a little touch of white to get a purple. I'm going to clean my brush because acrylic paint can be kind of thick. And then I'm going to go ahead and just touch into it again. And I'm just going to add a little bit to each one. Just a little bit of purple. And I want to mix a pink color, so I'm going to rinse and blot my brush, pick up a little touch of red and a little touch of white to get a pink color. Keeping it wet. Ooh, a little too thick. So I'll go ahead, just clean my brush of all color, and then go back in with just water. And we're just going to soften up the tops with the purple and the pink kind of blend together. And now that I have my water pretty much on here, touch up a couple more spots here and there. Remove any little hot glue strings. And once you have all of that on there, you want to go ahead and take just a little bit of salt. So I've used sea salt, so it's the fine crystals. I'm just going to pour a little bit of that in my hand. And I'm just going to go ahead and add this to the top of each jellyfish. And I can go ahead and add this to the background as well. You want to make sure this is pretty wet. I'm just adding a little bit more water to help the salt kind of take effect. And we could take a little bit more salt and add to it to get the textured. Okay, and play with it a little bit more if you would like. Agitate the paint with the salt. And then you want to let this dry for a little bit. Maybe get into those little nooks and crannies here and there before you completely start to let it dry. And there we go. We're just going to let this dry. You might be impatient for the drying, so slow drying a little bit helps diffuse some of the paint, expedites the drying process. You can also take up the brush and soak up a little extra. All right, it's a little bit drier, so it'll expedite the drying process if you let it sit for a little bit and then soak it up, the excess, with the brush, and and then blot it off on your paper towel. And then give it a little blow dry. It's still a little damp, so you can let it sit a little bit longer. And then we'll remove the salt by taking this and shaking it off in the sink. And then we'll start with a nice clean canvas to prep with some other things. Okay, so once I have let this dry and I have added I have taken the salt away, I can now incorporate a little bit of silver paint. And I'm just going to touch in with a little brush. And I'm just going to kind of add it to the top of where the tentacles are or where the hot glue sits. And I'm just kind of touching it on and just adding a little bit here and there just to give it a little bit of dimension and shadow. Just wherever you feel like it could go. You don't have to coat on too much paint. And just kind of go through and just make sure you got all the spots that you wanted with the silver. All right, so once you have that on there, we want to let this dry a little bit. You can either use the small brush that you've been using and a little bit of white paint to create circles. And then you want to put just a little tiny curved line just to kind of make it look like a bubble. Now you can do this with paint, or you can use a paint marker. This is an acrylic paint marker, and this might expedite the process. Now you just want to add a couple little circles and lines. It shows up more in the darker areas, but you do still want to have a couple of bubbles present in some of the other areas. And it might fade into the paper. I'll just add another little layer. Various sizes, small, medium, whatever you feel like. Just kind of randomly placed wherever the areas allow. And then you can clean off your small brush and add a little bit more white. Give it a couple little dots or paint blobs, creating an illusion of maybe smaller bubbles. But it gives the artwork a little bit of motion in the ocean. That's a joke. All right, just kind of add them here and there. They can be small, they can be big, they can be many, they can be few. It's really up to you. Sometimes in your painting, you just kind of see how it feels. Start with a few and then grow a few more. You're the artist. And once you've got that on there, you can go ahead and add a little bit of white to where the hot glue marks are. And give it a little bit of a highlight. And give it the presence. It'll pop out a little bit more. Got a little bit of red in there. All right, well, not really a happy accident, but we could just take a little bit of water and just wipe that off. And then go back into the white. Sometimes mistakes happen, or I should say perceived mistakes happen when you're painting. And you can either work with it or you can figure out ways to fix it. And I think sometimes by making mistakes or perceived mistakes, kind of gives you a way to figure out how to fix those mistakes. And sometimes you might not know how to fix them, but if you experiment and you try with different things, you'll eventually build up your skill set and know how to fix them in the future if you do make another perceived mistake. But sometimes art just comes out and it just is what it is. So just go ahead and keep adding a few more highlights, making those pop forward. Now, art's subjective. People like what they like, and you can elaborate this however you choose. It is your painting. It hangs on your wall, not mine. So just kind of add your own personal touch. I'm going to give it a little bit of white in the middle here. Add a little water to that. Guide on a little bit. If you've ever been to an aquarium, they sure are very tranquil to watch. They're like little brains of the ocean. All right, and there you have it. That's your finished piece. Unless you want to elaborate a little bit more, you can take the big brush and add a little bit more blue to the background here and there. Just work around your bubbles. But if you want a little bit of a darker color, or you want to touch up a little bit of your background, you can. But you are finished. If you'd like to sign it, you can sign it maybe in Sharpie or pencil, but that's pretty much the final piece. You can also elaborate by adding a little bit more pen or pencil going around things. But once you are done with the entirety of the painting, you can just take this piece or untape this piece. And because we taped it off, we have a little bit of a border. And there's your finished piece. Here's another one that I did, but I used a little bit of a darker color to it and a little bit more salt with the water. And so that's what it looks like darker versus what it looks like lighter. So kind of a side-by-side comparison. But you can do this. This is a pretty quick and easy art piece. And I have every faith that you can do this. And if you feel you can't, you know what? Just play. Play with art. Just let your mind go and just see what you can create. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.